Hello and welcome back to the Lose Your Mind podcast. We are going to be discussing gratitude today and how much we have to be grateful for. Isn't that right, Alan?
We are indeed. Yes, I'm very grateful to be here, as it turns out.
I'm grateful too. So gratitude is one of the
Job
mindful
done then.
attitudes. Thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.
Yeah, that'll be that then.
So
So,
John Kabat-Zinn added additional attitudes, didn't he? So we're talking about the attitudes of mindfulness for those that haven't tuned in before. And initially there were 7 attitudes of mindfulness, and then some additional ones were added, gratitude being one of them. So we are going to discuss that today, and Alan's going to kick off with his opinion on what that means for him.
yeah, you're right. And I don't know why he omitted this from his Magnificent Seven, but because I think this is one of the real gems of mindfulness, and it's quite simple for me. In that I think the more you boil things down back to their kind of reality and their simplicity, which is what we do in mindfulness, don't we? We think about the present moment, we think about the breath, we think about the sounds we're hearing, and it just encourages you to be more grateful. Now, I've had this conversation with another colleague who's talked about that gratitude is the practice that you do. So you say deliberately, well, I'm going to be grateful for this, and I'm going to sit down and meditate upon that, and I'm grateful for this and I'm grateful for that. And I think, yeah, you can do it that way, but what I do think is that just by sitting down and quietly meditating and being mindful about what you're doing, you naturally cultivate gratitude. So you don't need to force it. It just kind of happens. So for example, and I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot here. I'll let you have a word in a minute, Kelly.
It makes a change.
If you're making a cup of tea, okay, and you're being mindful about it. Now, I know there's a difference between men and women here, whereas men will just stand and stare at the kettle, whereas women will get the washing done and peel the potatoes and all that kind of stuff because they're very efficient. But if you're making a cup of tea and you're totally mindful about it, you can suddenly start to feel a bit more grateful for the fact that, you suddenly start to think about, this water that's in the kettle, I've got this clear drinking water that I'm now going to, I've got the energy to go into it, and it's going to, this great cup of tea that's going to come out that, and you just start to think about those little elements. And I think that's the wonderful thing, is you just stop and just watch what's going on in front of you. Then you become naturally grateful for it.
I think that's a really good way to look at it, actually, because what you're saying there is that essentially mindfulness brings us gratitude, but essentially the gratitude makes us mindful anyway. So they kind of pair out quite nicely, don't they? When teaching mindfulness, a mindful cup of tea is something that you would do quite often, isn't it? It's an
Indeed.
exercise that you would explore with people. And yeah, the gratitude in that, like you say, you get more out of the experience. Now, I appreciate you did a generalized female male comment. I won't comment any further, but
probably completely unacceptable, and I apologize for that.
But it is important to stop, because you're right. As if you're somebody that likes to multitask, you miss a lot. You miss a lot if you're a multitasker. Also, it's like a bit of a control thing, isn't it? And you lose chances to be grateful. Another thing that I have started to do, and someone mentioned this to me a while back now, but when people gratitude journal, for example, and it's 3 things you're grateful for, what, often people will ask that question. So I could say, I'm grateful for us having this chat this morning, because I'm going to probably learn some new things, But most people say, I'm grateful for my family, I'm grateful for my dinner, I'm grateful for this. But if you add the word because after that, the power in that, the gratitude is just unbelievable, isn't it? So if you say, I'm grateful for my pen, lovely. But if you say, I'm grateful for my pen because it enables me to write and get the thoughts off of my chest onto the paper and make my being lighter, there's so much power in, because like when you think about it a bit deeper, and then your expression of gratitude is just so much greater. I mean, there is so much to be grateful for. all the time. And I'm always thinking while I'm grateful, but quite now, and a tip for anyone that listens, if you add that word because, I mean, it elevates gratitude just to a whole new level, in my opinion, because you're just thinking about why. It's quite easy to come up with 3 things you're grateful for. For a lot of people, it won't be easy to say 3 things they're grateful for about themselves. But if you just think about a generalization, but do you see what I mean there with the gratitude and taking it to that next level?
That is absolutely brilliant. I've never heard that before, but I must admit, because I mean, I do a gratitude journal. I don't do it every day, and I know you should do. I tend to go through little phases. It tends to be when you're feeling down, doesn't it? And then you'll start writing things down, and then you start to feel okay, and then you give it up. A bit like mindful meditation, which a lot of people do when they feel down, and then they give it up, right? But I've never thought of doing it that way. But it's funny what you said, though, because working with a lot of different people and telling them or asking them to write down 3 things they're grateful for, a lot of people really struggle with that. And I think people tend to underestimate the small things and overestimate the large things. So the first day they do it, oh, I'm grateful for my partner, my kids, my dog, whatever. And then once that's done, they go, where do I go with that? And I think you just shouldn't underestimate just the smaller or more obscure things. Like, I'm grateful for the fact we've had great weather, we've been able to go outside and, breathe fresh air, just there's an infinite number of things you can be grateful for if only you just look out for them and you're just in the right wavelength for them. And I think that's what it is, really. But I do love that. I'm grateful for because, and I'm going to happily steal that and use that with my clients. So thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad you're grateful for it.
I'm very grateful. I forgot to say that. Yeah.
No, I think you did actually. I think you did say you're grateful for it without even thinking. But gratitude itself, it is such a powerful thing. But I think we are all a bit like, how we've discussed before. I think everyone is living mindfully, but they're just not aware of it. I think it's the same with gratitude. I think we're all fundamentally underneath grateful, but we're just not aware of we're grateful because we're just clouded up again with all these layers. So you're kind of missing the things that what makes your heart sing and like what makes you smile and stuff like that, don't you? So you're grateful for it, but you just may not be aware of it. And then when you bring awareness to it, it just gives you that lovely, oh yeah, I am really grateful for that. And I was listening to an audiobook the other day, and Jay Shetty, actually, I do love him. A lot of things he says really bring tears to my eyes, but on this particular occasion he was talking about something to do with gratitude and how in life he said something along the lines of, give me one experience in life that you wish you hadn't had, or that you don't think you deserve. That was it. So all the people in the room that were practicing this task were saying things like, I don't think I deserve for my sister to die young was one example, or, my mum to get cancer, or, to lose my friend, or things like that. But not at any point did he say in this thing that he was discussing, did anyone say they didn't think they deserved a good thing? Because naturally we go through life expecting that it should be full of roses and that we take all these good things in, that we automatically deserve them. Now we don't, do we? There are people starving like that we, in life, and they would be so grateful for the food that we may take for granted, which is why, we explore mindful eating and things like that. But I think his point was on the gratitude scale was that naturally we are grateful for the good experiences, but the bad ones do also teach us things. So it was just like a broader thing of being grateful for the situations you go through and the lessons that they teach you, I interpreted as the point. Yeah. So it's just trying to bring a bit of gratitude to that as well. I hope that came across well.
It did. Well, it did to me.
Okay, well, fingers crossed. But
that's half the battle.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. I mean, these negative things teach us something, and if we can adopt the mindset that even if we think something's bad, like the loss of someone or whatever, which of course it is, there may be some silver lining in there somewhere. And there always is if you actually choose to think that way. So you can
Yeah.
cultivate this grateful feeling, not just by being mindfully aware of what's in front of you and is good, but as you hit the nail on the head, you know, you can be grateful for literally anything.
Well, you can, but it's so important to realize as well that not everyone is going to be grateful for the same thing. So you may go and give someone a gift and expect them to be grateful for it, because that might be a gift you would like to receive, for example. But the other person may not have the same perspective on that. I mean, for me, if someone does something for me, like not like a gift, but the gesture, if there's like a huge element of thought behind a thing and I can feel the love in it, I mean, I can't even tell you what it means. If someone does something that's half-hearted or spends billions of pounds, it means nothing. It's I'm just so grateful for the care behind it. Whereas somebody might get a lot of value out of something else. Equally, I know it brings the same gratitude, but I think it's important that we just see, you know, what's important and bring the gratitude to it, because it just gives you a much more positive, happy outlook on life, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it makes all the difference. You know, I mean, what stops us being grateful, really? What actually stops us, do you think?
Well, I just think it's when we get caught on loop and follow the wrong thought patterns.
Yeah.
I really do believe that. I think if we allow ourselves to follow certain trains of thought, like me with my anxiety in the past, or when you get angry with a particular situation, if you let yourself get lost on that train, it's difficult to jump off. Whereas if you're grateful and then you think of like that, because why am I grateful for this? I think you end up just drawing in things that are important, and you see things for what they are and just get to live a happier life. I mean, if they were selling drugs as like great jars of gratefulness, it'd probably be the best selling drug out there, because, well, not drugs per se, but you know, I mean, like, you know, you can like paracetamol, etc. But the feeling and the everything behind gratitude is amazing, isn't it? And it's such a simple thing that we all have access to, but we ourselves possibly block it. So just by thinking of things that you're grateful for and why, that why is such a powerful tool. Because I mean, even just picking up like I've got candles up here where I'm sat now. So if I say, oh, I'm grateful for my candles, there's not really that much behind that. You know, it's like, oh, I'm grateful for my candles, but why am I grateful? Well, because they let off a really nice smell. I feel really relaxed. I like the lights, they're really peaceful. And sometimes I like to watch their flickering flame, you know, so then I've kind of got a lot more meaning behind just that candle. So anyone can do that in the day. And even like when you're in the car, I mean, people are so grateful to get from A to B, but there's so much more you get out of being in the car that you could explore. I'm not going to spend another 5 minutes talking about my journey, because we'd be here all day, Alan, but you see where I'm going with it.
I do. And that would be fine, I'm sure, if you were to talk about that. But okay. So I think we get in our own way. And I think it's also probably pertinent to know that you can't be grateful all the time, you know, because if you just went around saying, oh, I'm grateful for that, I'm grateful for the argument we just had, and, you know, I'm grateful for stepped in that dog poo, then I think, you know, it just wouldn't be a normal person, would you? But I think, like all mindfulness, you know, what we're trying to do is just kind of rein ourselves in a little bit, just to make ourselves, you know, a little bit happier, a little bit more centered, and be ourselves a bit more, and come back to ourselves, which I think is what it's all about. So
Yeah, I think we're just trying to build the most positive experience in the moment, aren't we? And to
absolutely.
cultivate that gratitude, along with the other attitudes, allows you to live as happily and peacefully in the present as possible, while being aware of how you feel. So give everybody your top tip on how to be grateful.
Mine.
Yes.
Well, how do I compete with yours? I mean, I just think that you can do things like, so you that little kind of I've forgotten what you call it now in the heat of the moment, but when you just, what is that thing where you just sort of look at an object? So if I'm just sat here now and I look away from the screen and I look at just different objects, say 3 objects, and then I can find a way to be grateful for all of those in some way, shape, or form. And it's a little bit because like I'm grateful because my mind will naturally go, well, why am I grateful for that? Because, it's not just an object, it has meaning to me. And so I would say that really, just look around you, or even listen, just listen to sound or any of your senses, and just adopt the attitude of, okay, so what does that mean to me? That's what I would do.
I think that's very good advice. And hopefully everybody will feel a little bit more grateful after listening to this episode.
Well, they'd better.
But we're coming to an end now. So thank you again for today, Alan.
Thank you. It's been fun as ever.
And we'll be back again soon.
We will be back on the next episode of Lose Your Mind. So goodbye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.